What does it mean to be an American? People of mediocre ability sometimes achieve outstanding success because they don't know when to quit. Georgie Allen. Perseverance is the defining quality of being an American. The ability to struggle forward through adversity to reach a noble and valiant goal is what makes Americans who they are. Their war to become their own nation, independent from Britain, was successful due to the immense perseverance they showed. The American heroes read about today in textbooks got there by never giving up or giving in to the challenges they were faced with. The entire mindset of Americans is to keep pushing on and to never give up, for there is no success if there is not struggle. George Washington showed immense perseverance while serving his country, both as a soldier and as a leader. Throughout his military and presidential careers, Washington endlessly strived to be an exemplary patriot and worked diligently to make America the best country it could be. Though he faced countless adversaries, George Washington never gave up on his dedication to his country. Washington's odyssey began in June 1775, when he was unanimously selected as the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army in June 1775. Honored by such a position, Washington trained 14,000 men who had little to no military experience to fight against Britain, who had thousands of troops and the best navy in the world. One of his first battles as Commander-in-Chief took place at Brooklyn Heights, New York, in August 1776. The British were able to push Washington and his troops up to the water's edge. Though all hope seemed lost, Washington never wavered. When the thick fog came in that night, Washington quickly seized the moment and escaped over the Delaware River to Manhattan. From there, they escaped through New Jersey to Pennsylvania. At this point, the Continental Army had had no success, and many soldiers' enlistments were about to expire. Instead of giving up and enjoying the Christmas holiday, Washington persevered. He and his troops crossed the Delaware River on Christmas Eve, 1776, to surprise attack the Hessian missionaries hired by the British. Their victory at this battle was a huge momentum changer for the Continental cause. Washington also shows perseverance on January 3, 1777, while he was in Princeton, New Jersey. Washington was informed that Cornwallis, an important British military commander, was close by and posed an immediate threat. Washington did not hesitate before coming up with a clever plan to build a fake campfire to draw the British in as they escaped. The plan worked flawlessly, and George Washington was able to save his troops from what would have been a devastating loss. Furthermore, during the winter of 1777 to 1778, Washington persevered at Valley Forge. By the time they arrived, the Continental Army was short of men, supplies, and morale. Washington would not go easy on his men. He realized it would take much training if they had any chance of winning the war. So he had Baron von Steuben train his men in the traditional European war-style fighting. Additionally, Washington had The Crisis by Thomas Paine read to raise morale. After surviving the long cold winter, Washington led his men to New Jersey, where they won the Battle of Monmouth on the hot July day. Their victory showed that they were capable of winning. Washington's final military victory was in forcing Cornwallis to surrender at Yorktown in October 19, 1781. Cornwallis had planned of getting supplies from the British Navy at Yorktown. There he was met by the French. Washington was able to keep the British commander from escaping inward. Cornwallis was stuck between the French and Washington and surrendered, ending the American Revolution. Washington also persevered in politics. When he was not content with the Articles of Confederation, Washington initiated the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787. Then, in 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected the first President of the United States. After serving for 4 years, he was re-elected in 1792. Sadly, he died of a throat infection on December 4, 1799. The United States Senate said it best when giving a speech at Washington's memorial. He said, "With patriotic pride we review the life of Washington and compare him with those of other countries who have been preeminent in fame. Ancient and modern names are diminished before him. Greatness and guilt have too often been allied, but his fame is wider than it is brilliant. Let his countrymen concentrate the memory of the heroic George Washington, the patriotic statesman and vigorous sage. Let them teach their children never to forget that the fruit of his labors and his examples are their inheritance. Throughout his life, Washington persevered through difficult times, and that is what makes him a true American. Another American who exhibits perseverance throughout his life is Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was a lawyer who joined politics to end the spread of slavery because he believed it was against the Declaration of Independence, a document he idolized. Though he met much resistance and opposition, Lincoln persevered to bring an end to slavery, and also to return the Union when it fell apart over the slavery issue. Abraham Lincoln's first major political step was to run for senator in Illinois against Stephen Douglas in 1858. Lincoln was a Republican who advocated for anti-slavery when Douglas was a Republican running for re-election and believing in popular sovereignty, that individual states should decide to be slave or free based on a majority vote. The two men had 7 famous debates, one in each of the 7 congressional districts. The debates grew attention of the nation, and Lincoln became well known throughout the country. During one debate, Lincoln famously said, slavery, is the old issue of human rights versus property rights. It is the eternal struggle between 2 principles, the one the common right of humanity, and the other the divine right of kings. It is the same spirit that says, you toil and work and earn bread, and I'll eat it. Lincoln believed in the right of all that African Americans were human beings, not white men's property. Though he lost to Douglas, Lincoln was not discouraged and persevered to beat Douglas along with John C. Breckinridge and John Bell, the presidential election in 1860. Then on December 20th, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union even before Lincoln got the chance to give his inaugural speech as president. South Carolina seceded because they believed that Lincoln would make slavery legal and that they would have to give up their unalienable rights to their property, slaves. In this inaugural speech, Lincoln even stated that his goal was not to outlaw slavery, but to stop it to spreading from more states. South Carolina was followed by Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas in the secession. Instead of accepting their split from the United States, Lincoln stood strong and never accepted the 7 states of the Confederate States of America. He insisted they went with the argument that the Declaration provided no way for it to be discarded, and therefore it must be perpetual. Lincoln's main focus was then turned to uniting the broken Union. He could not just stand by and let the states do what they chose, and therefore he chose to go to war with the seceded states, starting the Civil War. Though the Union Army lost the Battle of Fort Sumter on April 12, 1861, the Battle of the First Bull Run on July 21, 1861, the Battle of the Peninsula, and the Second Bull Run, Lincoln does not. In To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, perseverance through his noble actions to stand up for what he believes is right, regardless of the town's opinions. Atticus Finch is the single father of 2 children, Jem and Scout, in the small town of Macombie, Alabama, during the Great Depression. Atticus is a lawyer who is assigned to defend African-American Tom Robinson against the accusations of raping a white woman. When taking the case, Atticus is aware of the prejudices that have occupied the town and that there will be immense opposition to his involvement. He even realizes that his children will face adversity for their father's role in the case, but Atticus dedicates himself to defend Tom Robinson anyway. He does so because he believes full-heartedly that Tom Robinson did not rape Mayella Ewell, and that it is his duty to stand up for the innocent man, even though there is absolutely no hope that a colored man's word will ever win out against a white man's word during his lifetime. One of the very first people to oppose Atticus in his defense of an African American is his own sister Alexandra. She desperately tries to convey to him that representing an African American would bring shame to the family name. Her words rub off on Scout, and when she asks her father about it later, he explains the quote from chapter 9, blah 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 blah. Atticus's response shows his reasoning behind defending Tom Robinson. It shows that he is willing to put his